A river's catchment or drainage basin could be defined as the area of land it drains from one watershed to the next. As it is the source of all the river's water, it is usually the first port of call when seeking to improve the overall health of a sickly river. Its duties are numerous. Firstly, rain, snow, frost, dew and hail must be efficiently absorbed into the topsoil. A good covering of year-round greenery is essential here to prevent loss through evaporation, plus stopping erosion and surface runoff. From there, the water is allowed to filter unimpeded through the soil and rock strata before emerging filtered and polished as springs. This ability of properly intact catchments to absorb water quickly and release it slowly has a huge bearing on a river's stability as a habitat, making droughts less severe and floods less damaging, surely an endearing habit. However, things can go wrong. In a rural setting, ploughs, cows and heavy machinery cause compaction leading to runoff and erosion. Surface runoff can reach a watercourse much faster than groundwater, causing a reversal in the catchment's mechanism. The result is swinging droughts and brutal floods. Nutrients from chemical fertilizers, dung and decaying organic matter in the soil leach unfiltered into the river. The potential result? Over-nutrification, loss of diversity, high biological oxygen demand, blue-green algae, disaster. The urban picture may be even worse, with hard surfaces causing massive runoff and cars lacing the water with a cocktail of dubious liquids. So, what can be done? Well, due to the large areas of land involved, successful catchment-wide restoration has always been tough to pull off. However, this should not deter us from having a go. So here are a few simple ideas anyone can implement at any scale. Much of the theory is drawn from the keyline concepts of Australian farmer and engineer P.A. Yeomans. Whilst his work is much too complex and far-reaching for me to describe successfully here, in synopsis, keyline design is a technique for maximising the beneficial use of a piece of land's water resources. The keyline refers to a specific topographic feature linked to water flow. Beyond that, however, keyline can be seen as a collection of design principles, techniques and systems for development of rural and urban landscapes. The relevance for us lies in his system of amplified contour ripping to control rainfall runoff. The ripping is carried out with a mole plough or subsoiler. Here, subsoiler slots run along the hillside like the contour lines on a map. They interrupt and catch surface water as it runs down the hill, helping infiltration and stopping it flashing off. The ends and low points are raised slightly, further helping to hold water in the hill. Trees are huge players in the health of our catchments, and any large area of intact forest is likely to producing consistent water of the finest quality. Therefore, the slots were planted with around 2,000 trees, courtesy of the Woodland Trust. Their varied portfolio includes continuing the work of the subsoiler by keeping the soil open with their roots, producing shade and slowing the wind speed, reducing evaporation, laying down a humic sponge of leaf litter and consuming nutrients in the runoff they collect. In catchment terms, any tree is a good tree. Sadly though, it's usually only the steepest or most unfavourable bits of land that are given over to growing trees, and this leaves the bulk of our landscape under arable or grazing management. But again, there's no shortage of things we can do to try and improve the situation. Firstly, I believe that even if you are not officially certified, a move to some sort of organic management should be a high priority. The problems of pesticide and especially fertiliser runoff are well documented, and in this era of unpredictable weather, successfully applying these chemicals will be even more of a lottery. Failing this, the introduction of wide, possibly wooded buffer strips around the field margins and the growing of large bushy hedges may do some good. In terms of pasture, the possibilities are a little more exciting. Although forest reigns supreme as a catchment maker, deep, humus-rich pasture is not too far behind. Add to this rising meat prices internationally, and we can start to picture an economically and ecologically productive and sustainable future. One potentially highly beneficial technique is that of mob grazing. First pioneered in South Africa, it simulates the effects of predators on grazing animal behaviour by keeping them tightly grouped or mobbed and constantly on the move to new forage. The mobbing alters the effects of their grazing by forcing them to trample a higher proportion of the forage. This, plus their dung, goes down to form a thatch on the soil surface. Just like a layer of leaf litter, this keeps the soil moist and cool, aids absorption and prevents evaporation and runoff. Again, I simplify a huge topic in the interests of brevity. Now let's move from the higher ground to the valley floor and look at some notions for the floodplain itself. Historically, we've often seen water as something to be got rid of, something to be flushed out to sea as quickly as possible. All well and good, but really we need to try and keep that water in the landscape as long as possible, performing more tasks for longer. So now, instead of straight dikes carrying water directly to the river, we see interrupters running parallel to the river, blind ditches, low scrapes and wet grazing. Here's one such feature, a blind interrupting ditch running parallel with the river, which lies 100 yards or so to the left of the shot. The flooding-prone track will soon be resurfaced encampment, forcing runoff into the ditch, where it will soak away into the groundwater. More capacity can be added by digging a silt pond, like this unfinished example. Both the ditch and pond could be planted with reeds, willow and other beneficial plants to hold the banks and clean the water. However you try and achieve it, the aim is to stop and soak in runoff at every stage, so it can be delayed, cleaned and assimilated by the groundwater.